They say winter is a season of joy, but listen closer. Beneath the carols and candlelight, something older breathes, claws tapping behind the snowdrifts, horns silhouetted against the frozen moon. Before Christmas was gentle, it was a warning, and every winter night, the forgotten ones stir, creatures born from fear, hunger, and the long darkness. Step quietly, witness. Their stories were never meant to sleep. Join the myth weaver, where forgotten stories breathe again. You find yourself standing in the quiet cradle of the Alps, where winter presses close, soft and immense, until the world narrows into white silence and smoke-gray sky. Wind keens through wooden shutters like something searching for heat, slipping through every crack as if it remembers the people who once hid from it. Villagers light rough tallow candles, whispering charms to keep the horned watcher away. Yet each season ends the same, with tracks no man claims, fading into the buried woods. You breathe in slowly, letting the cold settle around you like a second cloak. Winter has a way of quieting everything. Thought, footstep, fear. Even your heartbeat seems to slow, syncing with the ancient rhythm of mountains older than stories. And as you stand in this soft, endless dusk, you sense why people once believed that creatures walked here when the nights grew long. Not because they were foolish, but because winter makes imagination louder, clearer, almost real. You walk with the villagers now, through a memory that feels half your own. Snow crunches under your boots, brittle and delicate, as if the ground beneath is thinner than it looks. You see small cottages clustered like candles flickering against the dark, roofs steep enough to shed the weight of storms that bury pathways in a single night. Smoke spirals upward in thin, uncertain threads, as though afraid to touch the open sky. Inside each cottage, doors are barred, not because of people, but because of something older, something they spoke of only in winter, only in whispers. The Horned Watcher. You hear the name first as a breath, a tremor of language worn smooth by centuries. It is not a creature of fact, not a documented beast or a historical figure. It is a story born from long nights, when fear and imagination curled together beside the fire. A story meant to teach children not to wander too far from the village. A story meant to remind adults that winter is a season of consequences. Still, you feel eyes on you, just beyond the ridge, just beyond the pines. Not threatening, not cruel, simply watching. You follow the villagers as they prepare for the night. A mother hangs juniper branches above the door, the scent sharp and resinous, grounding the air in a green, earthy sweetness that cuts through the cold. A father scratches protective symbols into frost-rimmed windows, the lines trembling like the hand that draws them. A child places a small wooden carving on the mantle, tiny antlers rising from a smooth block of birch, for protection, or appeasement, or both. You can almost hear their thoughts. If we remember it, maybe it will leave us alone. If we honor it, maybe it will pass us by. The candles flicker. You watch the flame shift from steady gold to wavering blue, as if reacting to something beyond the wall. The wind moans softly, a long exhale, gentle, but not empty. And then, the curiosity settles in you like a spark. What were they truly afraid of? A creature? A god? Or simply winter itself, personified because the human heart needs shapes for its fears? You sense the answer drifting just out of reach, like breath on frozen glass. You step outside again, and the world feels larger. A vast white ocean that swallows paths and landmarks without trace. Snow falls slowly, each flake descending like a wandering ember. Pines huddle together in dark clusters, and you realize how easy it would be, in such a place, to believe you were not alone. Because you aren't. Not exactly. Stories walk with you. The legend of the Horned Watcher shifts as you listen. Some say it had the body of a man and the antlers of a stag. Others speak of hooves that never left prints when the Watcher meant no harm. Still others describe a shifting shape, tall and shadow-thin, with glowing eyes that reflected candlelight like distant lanterns. It was never one creature. It was a mirror, a tapestry of fears woven by many hands. You imagine the first person who told that story. Perhaps a shepherd returning late, the storm closing in around him like a curtain. Perhaps he saw a silhouette against the snow, a stag turning its head in that eerie way deer have, motionless, unblinking. Perhaps the mountain wind carried a low groan across the valley, turning nature's voice into something that sounded almost human. Fear fills gaps with shapes, with horns, with shadowed limbs. And yet, the villagers didn't treat the story as a curse. Not entirely. There was a strange tenderness in the way they spoke of the Watcher. Respect, reverence, as if the creature was not evil, only ancient, a guardian of boundaries, reminding them where safety ended and the deep wilderness began. You walk further now, following a faint trail lit only by the pale sheen of moonlight. Feels like slipping into a half-dream. Snow drifts up to your ankles. You feel the cold seep through leather and wool, numbing your toes until they almost disappear. Your breath clouds before you, a small ghost rising into the night. Then you see it. Tracks. Not fresh, softened by wind, but still clear. Wide, deep, too wide to be deer, too deep to be fox, too far apart to be any creature you know. They lead toward the woods, where the trees gather in thick, solemn ranks. Their branches hold heavy loads of snow, bending low, as if bowing to something that once passed through. You kneel, touch the print. Snow crystals crumble under your fingers, fragile as secrets. You feel the strange pull of wonder, the same wonder those villagers must have felt centuries ago, standing exactly where you are, asking the same silent question. What walked here? You follow the tracks because curiosity is a kind of warmth, a lantern held up against the cold. The deeper you go, the quieter the world becomes, until even the wind falls silent. The forest absorbs sound like thick wool. The snow muffles your steps. You move through a place that feels untouched by time, suspended between breath and memory. In the stillness, you begin to understand. The Horned Watcher was never meant to be a monster. It was a whisper that kept families close, a story that kept wanderers from straying too far, a reminder that winter, beautiful as it is, can be merciless, that the mountains do not forgive those who forget their rules. But there is another layer, softer, almost tender. The Watcher was a bridge between human and wilderness, between fear and awe, between what the eye sees and what the mind completes. You rise, letting snow fall from your glove. The tracks vanish deeper into the pines, swallowed by drifts. You don't follow them further. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Some remain powerful only when kept half open, half imagined. As you turn back toward the village, you feel the presence again. Not threatening, simply observing. A shape at the edge of vision, a glimmer of antlers against the snowlight. You don't look directly. Sometimes the quietest truths live just beyond sight. You walk slowly, candle glow appearing through cottage windows like constellations guiding you home. The wind rises again, gentler this time, almost like a sigh. And when you reach the village path, the last thing you hear is a soft crunch deep in the forest. A footstep that is not yours, and the feeling that winter still remembers every story ever whispered about it. You return now to another winter, another night where old Europe shivers beneath a sky the color of burnt iron. The cold feels older here, heavier, as if it remembers centuries of footsteps crossing frozen ground. Endless nights stretch like ink spilled across the world, and fire becomes the only shield, a flickering heartbeat against the vast and waiting dark. Iron chains clatter on rooftops, cold as grave bells in the stillness. Children whisper trembling prayers against the shadow that follows St. Nicholas. And each winter, chimney soot reveals claw marks no priest can explain. You stand at the threshold of a small cottage, its walls bowed with age, its door swollen from storms. The wood creaks under the pressure of the wind, and for a moment you hear something else behind that sound. A rhythm too intentional to be weather, too steady to be accident. A chain dragging, a link catching, metal speaking in the language of warnings. You step inside, and the heat from the fire greets you gently, soft as a warm breath. Flames glow gold and red, licking at the logs as if trying to chase shadows from the corners of the room. You watch how families gather close around the hearth, shoulders touching, blankets wrapped tight. They know the night is long, They know what wanders through it. Not a man. Not exactly. Not a demon either, despite the horns and the chains and the jagged silhouettes carved into alpine wood. But something between. A story told because winter needed a shape, and consequences needed a name. You hear the villagers speak of him in careful tones. Krampus, the shadow companion, the taker of wayward souls, the dark echo of Saint Nicholas, walking one step behind the saint's gentle blessing. And as the tale wraps itself around you, you feel how much of it is myth, how much warning, how much yearning for order in a world ruled by hunger and cold. The truth is quieter, simpler. Children behaved because fear was sometimes easier to teach than hope. Still, the chains make you wonder. Why chains? Why metal in a time where wood and wool defined daily life? You watch as an elder explains it to a child, voice low and trembling like a candle at its last inch of wick. Chains were symbols, a reminder of the darker spirits of winter, bound long ago by kinder forces. A story to explain why the world still held warmth at all. But legends have edges, and sometimes the people believed the chains were real. You imagine them now on the rooftops, dragging slowly across ancient shingles, each link scraping like a dull blade. A harsh sound in a world otherwise softened by snow. A sound that could wake a sleeping village. A sound that could convince even the bravest soul to bolt the door and bury themselves under heavy quilts. Outside, the sky deepens into a darker blue, almost black. Moonlight glints off fresh snow, making the world look washed in silver. You step back into that open air, and your breath curls upward in delicate, frosted spirals. The silence feels absolute, the kind of silence that holds its breath, waiting. Then softly, faintly, you hear it, a clink, a scrape, as though someone drags a chain across stone, then pauses, listening. You follow the sound toward the rooftops, your footsteps muffled by the deepening snow. The air tightens around you, thin and crystalline, sharp enough to taste. You lift your gaze and imagine the creature moving above, hunched and heavy, chains swaying from its limbs, staring down at chimney mouths as if those openings were invitations. The villagers believed the creature could slip through the narrowest cracks, melting into soot, reforming on hearthstones like a shadow pulling itself into shape. And whether the story is truth or invention, you can see why they believed it. Chimneys were thresholds, portals between the warmth of the home and the lawless cold outside. Any gap wide enough for heat was wide enough for myth. You return indoors, standing near a hearth where a fire crackles like old bones. Soot stains the stone, dark and thick, clinging to the brick in uneven streaks. Yet among the stains, you see something else. Faint lines, curved and sharp, as though scored by claws. Not animal claws, not human fingers, something in between. You can understand how people who lived by candlelight and instinct would fear such marks. How priests would bless the stones, only for new lines to appear the next year. How children would believe that their own behavior shaped what visited their home after the saint passed through the village. And you start to sense the deeper truth in the myth, the way it echoed real anxieties. Winter punished the unprepared. Frost took the weak. Hunger punished those who wasted or strayed. Wolves circled villages in the darkest hours, their silhouettes merging with shadows cast by torchlight. Krampus became the shape of those fears, a face for everything children were not meant to see. You sink deeper into the room's warmth, listening as stories drift from lips softened by sleepiness and wine. Elders talk of nights when they heard chains dragging behind the saint's sleigh. Stories of Krampus visiting children who were cruel to their families, or lied, or disrespected the old. But beneath the frightening details, there is an odd tenderness. The shadow followed the saint because light always walks with darkness. Because hope is brightest when fear stands beside it. Because winter needed both blessing and warning. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the fire's warmth draw a soft haze over your thoughts. That low scraping sound from earlier seems distant now, almost imagined, almost a dream. But then, across the chimney, a small avalanche of soot falls, soft, unhurried, like a hand brushing the inside of the flue. You open your eyes slowly, The room feels still, too still. You turn your head toward the chimney's dark mouth, its edges glowing orange from reflected firelight. The air inside seems to tremble, just slightly, like breath distorting the shadows. A curiosity settles in your chest, part wonder, part unease. You lean closer, watching the soot shift, and there they are again. Faint but unmistakable claw marks. 3, long, uneven, curved into the stone as though the creature was climbing down, searching for something, listening for the smallest sound of misbehavior. You sit back, the fire warming your skin, the story settling deeper into you. You know this is myth, a cultural echo, a cautionary tale woven through centuries. Yet the snow-filled silence outside, the clattering of distant chains, the way the shadows seem to twitch at the edges of the room, all of it makes the line between story and possibility feel thin, almost transparent. And as the night stretches on, you find yourself drifting into a softer state, half wakefulness, half dream, where legends feel real and history whispers in a hushed voice. You imagine the saint passing through the village, cloaked in kindness, offering gifts and blessings, and behind him, moving slower, heavier, the companion, the necessary shadow. You imagine the chains swaying, the bells muffled by snow, the creature's breath curling like smoke, watching, waiting, not cruel, simply ancient, fulfilling its part in the delicate balance of winter. And just before sleep takes you, you hear one last sound outside, a soft rattle of metal on stone, a reminder that every story casts a shadow, and some shadows still wander beneath frozen hearths. You drift now into the deep north, where winter stretches so long that time itself begins to fold and hum softly around you. In remote Nordic hamlets, the sun vanished for months, and spirits took its place. Frost thickened on windows, forming eyes that watched from the glass. Families left bowls of porridge to appease the lurking barn dweller. And sometimes the food went untouched, and sometimes something breathed outside the door. You feel it the moment you arrive. That long, unbroken darkness. Not frightening, not hostile, just vast. A quiet so deep it feels like velvet wrapped around the world. Here, the sun doesn't rise for weeks, then months, and the sky becomes a single shade of blue-black, soft as ink diluted by memory. You hear your own breath, slow and steady, curling into the cold like pale smoke. You walk through a village that sleeps in shadows. Wooden houses huddle close together, their roofs bowed under the weight of centuries of snow. The wind sighs across the eaves, a gentle, continuous breath that feels less like weather and more like presence. Lanterns glow behind small windows, the light buttery and warm, painting amber squares on the white drifts. And as you draw closer, you begin to notice shapes on the frosted glass. Swirls, spirals, thin branching lines like the veins of a leaf. But as you watch, you see something else. The pattern shifts when your reflection moves. 2 small ovals form near the center. Not perfect, not deliberate, but unmistakably like eyes. You wonder if it's only your imagination. But imagination grows loud in places where the sun sleeps, fills the silence, paints meaning into shapes of frost. The villagers knew this well. You feel their rituals in the air around you, quiet, tender habits shaped by centuries of cold. Every evening, before the wind sharpens and the dark thickens, families leave small bowls of porridge in their barns, not for themselves, not for the animals, but for the Nis, the barn dweller, the red-eyed winter guest. Not a demon, not a god, not even a monster truly, a spirit of the home, a watcher, a being carved from the oldest Nordic beliefs that everything, every barn beam, every hearthstone, every field and creek, held its own guardian. The Nis was small, they said, gray-bearded, quick-tempered, loyal if respected, dangerous if ignored, a creature that walked softly across haylofts, watching livestock, protecting families, unless forgotten. The porridge was an offering, promise, a gesture of gratitude in a place where gratitude kept you alive. You follow a farmer now as he carries a wooden bowl filled with warm, steaming porridge across the snow. The scent of oats and cream melts into the cold, drifting upward in ghostly curls. His boots crunch, slow and practiced. He doesn't rush. Ritual never rushes. You walk beside him, hearing his breath, steady and wise, shaped by winters longer than you can imagine. He sets the bowl just inside the barn door, on a low wooden stool smooth from years of use. Then he leaves it there, untouched, unguarded, trusting the spirit to take what it is owed. When he closes the door, you notice something. A faint warmth, barely noticeable, as if someone had just breathed on the wood. The wind outside shifts, rising and falling like a long sigh. Night deepens. You sit near the barn, listening. At first, you hear nothing but the soft rustle of hay inside, the gentle shifting of an old wooden structure settling into sleep. But then, something else. A subtle scrape, a faint pattering, too light to be a goat, too deliberate to be a mouse. You close your eyes. Let the sound wash over you. You imagine a small creature climbing down the rafters, its eyes glowing faintly red in the dim barn light. You imagine it testing the air, curious, cautious, smelling the porridge, touching the bowl with fingers calloused by centuries of tending unseen work. You don't see it, not fully, not clearly, but some part of you feels watched in a gentle, ancient way, as though the barn itself has looked up from its slumber. You slip back toward the village path. The air is still, thick with cold. You pass another house, its windows rimmed with frost thick as lace. Again, those shapes, not eyes, not really, but close enough that your heartbeat softens in your chest. A child inside whispers a small prayer before sleep, their voice barely audible through the wood. Not a frightened prayer, a respectful one. The kind spoken by families who understand that spirits, like people, need to feel acknowledged. You wander further, feeling the snow deepen at your feet, powdery and untouched. You look up at the sky, no stars tonight, only a soft glow, distant and diffused, as if reflected from some forgotten horizon. The Nordic dark feels alive, swelling with old stories and older presences. Then suddenly you hear it, a breath, not your own, close, near the door of the house you just passed. A single, slow exhale. You turn your head, gentle, unhurried, not wanting to break the fragile thread of the moment. You see nothing at first, just undisturbed snow, just the faint outline of footprints leading toward the barn. But then the wind shifts again, and the frost on the window trembles, as if something just leaned close on the other side of the glass. You step closer, your boots sinking softly. The air feels dense, thick with unseen life. You hold still, sensing something lingering, curious, expectant. And then you see it, the bowl of porridge left earlier, now sitting on another doorstep. Not the barn, not the right house, as though someone had moved it quietly in the dark, testing boundaries, rearranging the ritual in a way only a trickster spirit would. The surface of the porridge is still steaming, untouched, yet the snow around it is disturbed, shaped by footprints that don't quite align with anything human or animal. Tiny, mismatched, as if each step were slightly different from the last. And for a moment, you understand why people believed in the red-eyed winter guest. Because something in the dark felt aware. Because something in the silence felt alive. Because the line between story and presence blurs easily when the sun vanishes for months. You stand very still, letting the cold settle into your coat, into your breath, into your bones. You feel the faint pressure of an unseen gaze. Not angry, not threatening, simply watchful. A guardian, a mischief maker, a winter guest who expects to be remembered. The porridge bowl sits on its little bed of snow, steaming gently, waiting for someone, something, to claim it. And as the wind drifts around you like a soft cloak, you hear one more sound, softer than a heartbeat. Tiny footstep, right behind the door. A pause, a breath, and then silence again, thick and endless, like the winter night holding its secrets close. You step deeper into winter now, leaving behind the gentle rituals of the north and drifting into the Carpathians, a place where the mountains rise like dark ribs against a starless sky. Here, the cold feels sharper, older, more watchful. Deep in these forests, the world tightens like jaws beneath a moonless sky, Branches snap under unseen weight, echoing across frozen ravines. Hunters swear they saw a creature stalking villages for the disobedient, and the snow holds prints too wide, too deep, and never alone. You feel it immediately, an unease that crawls softly across the ground. Not fear exactly, more like awareness, the sensation of entering a place that has been waiting, a forest that knows its own shadows. Pines crowd around you, tall and silent, their branches heavy with frost. The air is still, thick with the scent of resin and old winters. You walk slowly, letting your breath soften into the cold, feeling the snow compress beneath your boots like ancient parchment. The Carpathians are not gentle in winter. They never pretended to be. Their slopes are carved with ravines where wind howls like mourning voices. Their valleys sink into darkness so total it swallows your sense of distance. People learned long ago to fear these woods after sunset. Not out of superstition, but memory. Stories linger here, stories with teeth. You hear one now, carried in the faint snap of a branch far beyond your sight line. Not loud, not a storm wind breaking wood. A single, deliberate crack, as if something shifted its weight. You pause, and the silence that follows feels heavy enough to hold in your hands. The villagers once spoke of a creature born of winter's hunger, a being made of fur and frost and something older than language. Some called it a spirit of punishment, some a beast shaped by the deep woods, some a guardian of rules children were never meant to break. Legends change with each telling, but the core remains the same. It came in midwinter, when the night was longest, and it hunted those who strayed. You walk deeper, following a faint animal trail half buried under snowdrifts. The trees close in, their trunks like pillars holding up the black sky. Your footsteps soften, your breath thins, and you begin to understand how easily the mind could create monsters in such a place, and how easily something real could hide among them. Hunters told stories around fire pits, their faces lit orange and their eyes shadowed with memory. They spoke of seeing something move between trees, tall as a man, broad as a bear, but neither. Something that walked upright but left prints too wide, too deep for human feet. Prints that landed in pairs, and then another pair, as if more than one creature walked together, stepping in the same path. You picture it now, the soft thud of weight pressing into the snow, claws sinking deep, fur brushing against bark, eyes glinting with cold intelligence. But you don't see it, not yet. You continue along the trail until you reach a clearing. The snow here is untouched on the surface, smooth as silk, but just beneath you sense disruption. The faintest hint of movement from the night before. A shape shifts in the corner of your vision. Not a creature, only the trees, or perhaps not only. The wind rises suddenly, sweeping over the clearing with a sound like low growling. You pull your coat closer around your shoulders, but the cold finds your skin anyway, slipping past fabric, settling deep. This is a place where winter is alive, where hunger breathes. Villagers pass through here carrying torches, whispering prayers with each step. They believed the creature roamed the forest edge, testing the warmth of human dwellings. A midwinter spirit that punished cruelty, laziness, or disobedience. Adults told these stories to keep children close, but adults themselves listened too, because something really did break branches after midnight. Something did leave prints deeper than any bear. You kneel and brush fresh snow aside. Beneath it, a depression, a shape, broad, round at the front where weight pressed hard, narrower toward the heel. Not human, not animal, something in between. You trace the outline gently with your glove. Snowflakes cling to your fingertips as though reluctant to return to the ground. Another print lies beside it, and another, never alone. You rise slowly, listening. The forest holds its breath. The air prickles at the back of your neck, as if something unseen has taken interest in your presence. You walk quietly toward a fallen log, half sunken into ice. As you circle it, you notice claw marks raked across the bark, long and curved, like talons scraping for balance or sharpening instinctively. You feel the story growing around you, weaving itself into your senses. This wasn't a tale to frighten children. This was the forest speaking in symbols. Hunger, discipline, survival. The creature, whatever it was, became an embodiment of midwinter's harsh truths. Winter punishes carelessness. Winter tests those who forget its rules. Winter is a season that remembers. You step farther until the forest opens to a ridge overlooking a valley. The wind is quieter here, a low hum against your ears. The sky is an endless black bowl, stars hidden behind gathering snow clouds. Down below, you see the faint glow of a village, warm lights flickering like embers cupped in careful hands. And then, something shifts behind you. A footstep, a weight settling. You can't be certain. You turn slowly, gently, as though rotating inside a dream. The forest stands motionless, but the shadows seem rearranged. Deeper, closer. A scent drifts through the air, musky, earthy, like fur warmed by movement. The kind of scent an animal leaves behind when passing through dense undergrowth. You hear a breath, a long, low exhale. Not human, not quite animal, just there. You don't move. You let the moment stretch, soft and trembling. The presence doesn't approach. It lingers. It watches. You sense large eyes somewhere in the dark, eyes shaped by instinct and hunger and ancient purpose. Another breath, heavy, measured. You take a small step back, not out of fear, though fear hums quietly in your chest, but out of respect. This is its forest, its season, its domain. The snow shifts again, softly, as though more than one creature adjusts its stance. You don't look directly. Some truths are clearer in the edges of your vision. And then, like mist dissolving, the presence loosens. The air lightens. The forest exhales. Whatever watched you retreats into the deeper dark, its footsteps muffled into nothing. You stand alone on the ridge, breathing quietly, your pulse slowing back into rhythm with the silence. Down below, the village glows faintly, unaware, unworried, trusting that their rituals and boundaries will hold through the night. You turn back toward the path, snow whispering under your boots. The forest closes behind you like a great slow door. And as you walk, you notice one final set of prints beside your own, wide, deep, and fading into the woods as though the creature walked with you a while before slipping away. You don't follow them. Some stories walk with you only long enough to be felt, before hunger calls them back to midwinter's dark. You move now into a different winter, not the silent Nordic dark, nor the shadowed Carpathian forests, but the rugged Italian mountains, where midwinter carries a different kind of magic, quieter one, a stranger one. In these steep and winding valleys, the arrival of midwinter meant the arrival of an old crone with soot-stained robes. The air smelled of burning herbs and distant chimney ash. Families hung stockings not for joy, but as offerings to keep her temper mild. And yet every year, a home woke to cold ashes laid where gifts should be. You feel the shift as soon as you enter this place. The cold here does not bite the skin like northern frost. It settles in the bones, slow and ancient, as if remembering every winter that ever passed through these mountains. The stone paths beneath your feet are slick with frost, and snow gathers in gentle heaps along tiled roofs that glow faintly under lantern light. You walk down a narrow mountain trail, the world half draped in darkness. Somewhere far above, church bells toll a low, muted note, not celebratory, but ritualistic. A reminder, a warning, a rhythm the villages have followed for centuries without question. Tonight is her night, the longest night. La Befana, the old woman of soot and shadow. You see her story everywhere as you wander, in carvings over doorframes, in small charms hung beside windows, in bowls of herbs drying near hearths. She is not feared like demons of the north, nor hunted like the mountain beasts. No, she is expected, as predictable as winter itself, as necessary as dawn. But she is not gentle. You smell her presence before you feel it. That warm, strange blend of rosemary, dried laurel, and chimney soot. The scent clings to the air like a veil. You picture her robes, darkened by years of crawling through fireplaces, moving through smoke, sifting through embers for something only she understands. Families here don't hang stockings for cheer or celebration. They hang them as offerings, soft tokens of respect to a spirit older than the saint who walks elsewhere through Europe. A spirit who rewards goodness, yes, but not without judgment, not without mood, not without a temper honed by centuries of watching humans forget their promises. You imagine the families preparing tonight, a mother smoothing a stocking with trembling hands, a child placing a small biscuit inside, hoping sweetness softens the crone's mood, a father checking the chimney flue twice, not to keep her out, but to make sure the path is clear. You hear the quiet murmur of prayers not meant for saints. The fire crackles softly as you step into a small stone cottage. Its warmth wraps around you like a shawl. Herbs hang above the hearth, drying in bundles that sway with the rising heat. The family prepares a small plate of food, oranges, nuts, a bit of bread to leave for her. Not because she is hungry, because traditions like this keep the world in balance. You watch the mother place a single coin on the plate, a tiny gesture of respect, and then she pauses, listening for something, because they say the crone always arrives early in the mountains, long before midnight, long before anyone is asleep. You slip out into the crisp mountain air again, letting the night draw its curtain around you. The wind carries the faintest smell of burnt ash, not from the chimneys, from something wandering, something searching. You follow a winding path deeper into the village, past small squares lined with terracotta pots and shuttered windows. The snow crunches under your feet, each step soft and distant. And then a sound, a brush, a scrape, a soft sweep like fabric dragging across stone. You turn toward it, slow and steady, and there, at the edge of the square, you see movement, not shape, just a suggestion of it. A darker patch of night drifting near a chimney, hovering as though examining it, testing it. Soot falls gently, drifting like black snowflakes. You move closer, your breath puffing into the air. The presence shifts before you, not fast, not startled, simply adjusting, as though noticing another small detail in a world it has watched for far too long. You don't see her face. You only see the trail she leaves. Footprints light as ash, and a faint shimmer of heat as if she carries embers inside her sleeves. She slips away into the dark, leaving only a faint scent of smoke behind. You walk the village a while longer, and as you do, you feel the strange weight of her dual nature. La Befana is part myth, part memory, part morality. A winter figure who rewards virtue with simple gifts and punishes selfishness with ash. The ash is not cruel, not a curse. It is a reminder, a quiet marking, a way of saying, try again next year. But some homes receive more than ash. Some receive a cold, deliberate emptiness, a sign that the crone did not approve of what she found. You approach a small cottage on the village edge now. Its windows glow dimly with firelight. A bowl of offerings sits beside the door, untouched, perfectly untouched. Not a single nut missing, not a crumb taken. That, the villagers say, is the worst sign of all. You step inside with imagined permission, seeing a family asleep before the hearth. Stockings hang above them, swaying gently in the warm air. You walk toward one of them, expecting to see treats nestled inside. But when you reach for it, a chill runs through your fingers. Cold, biting chill. You peer inside. Cold ash, layered, deliberate, placed by a hand that has sifted through 1,000 fires. You feel it again, the presence, somewhere just beyond the wall, lingering, evaluating, deciding. Not angry, not pleased, simply observing. You step back, the soft snow outside muffling the world. The mountains loom high above you, silent and watchful, as though waiting for her to finish her rounds. A soft wind lifts the edge of your coat, carrying that faint aroma of burnt herbs once more. Somewhere behind you, a stocking rustles. You turn slowly, gently, but nothing moves. Only the fire, burning low. Only the shadows, breathing softly across the walls. You walk on, letting the night stretch ahead like a long, dark ribbon. You feel the crone's presence ebb and flow, drifting from one home to the next. A sweep of soot on a doorstep, a whisper of cloth in the snow, a a sudden gust of wind rattling shutters. And just when you think she has passed, you see it. A faint glow rising from a distant chimney. Not flame, not light, a warm red shimmer, like embers carried in invisible hands. She is still working, still judging, still wandering through the longest night. And as you watch that glow fade into darkness, you understand why every family here shows respect, why they hang stockings with quiet care, why they speak her name in softer tones. Because winter brings many beings, but only one enters every home. Only one leaves behind ashes or forgiveness. And somewhere between those choices, she walks unseen through the mountain cold, a shadow made of soot and old magic, lingering just long enough to remind the world that every winter tale has a keeper. You find yourself drifting north again, into the deep Scandinavian winter where old rituals never truly died. They simply changed their clothing. Here, across snow-packed villages and pine-shadowed hills, you'll brought masked figures roaming the lanes after dusk. Drums muffled through fur costumes and carved wooden faces. Villagers played along, offering ale to keep the goatmen's spirits calm. Yet some masks seemed too lifelike, their breath fogging the winter air. You step into a village where the night carries a strange warmth, not of temperature, but of memory. Lanterns swing gently from wooden posts, their glow soft as honey against the blue-white snow. Smoke curls upward from cottage roofs, a steady rhythm rising into the dark sky. The air is crisp and edged with the scent of pine resin, cold iron, and the faintest trace of old traditions still clinging to the world. It is Yule, the turning of the light, a bridge between seasons. You hear it first, a low thump, steady as a heartbeat, a drum softened by thick layers of fur, its rhythm echoing across the frozen lane. Another beat joins it, then another, not loud enough to frighten, just enough to call attention, to remind the villagers that tonight belongs to something older than them. You walk toward the sound, your boots sinking into powdery snow. Shadows move ahead, tall, stooped figures swaying as they walk, their bodies wrapped in goatskins, their shoulders draped in fur, their faces hidden behind carved wooden masks, each one painted with curling horns and wide, staring eyes. Some masks grin, some frown, some are jagged with age, flaking paint revealing the pale wood beneath. These are the Julbuck, or Julbuck, or the Yule Goat, shifting names for a shifting custom. Part tricksters, part spirits, part laughter hidden inside fear. Villagers step outside their homes as the wanderers approach. No one acts alarmed. Children peek from behind skirts or coats, eyes wide with both excitement and unease. Adults hold mugs of ale or small baskets of bread, ready to give offerings. These traditions are not forgotten. Not here, where winter still feels like a living presence. You watch as the goatmen stomp through the snow, shaking bells tied to their ankles and rattling wooden sticks against their drums. Their voices are low, muffled by the masks, speaking in tones that barely rise above the wind. They tease, they demand ale, they ask riddles or recite rustic rhymes. The villagers laugh, but their smiles hold a hint of caution, as if everyone understands there is something deeper beneath the play. You approach one of the masked wanderers. His fur cloak shifts as he turns, and the lamplight catches the ridges of his wooden mask. Smooth, polished, almost too real. The carved eyes gleam with reflected firelight. But then you notice something else. A breath, a visible puff of warm air drifting through the mask's nostrils. You pause, watch, wait for it again. There, another cloud of breath, soft and steady, rising into the cold night. It should comfort you. It should remind you there's a man behind the mask. But instead, it feels off, too animal, too instinctive. He stands still and watches you, or rather, the mask watches you. Something inside the carved eyes seems to shift, just slightly. You step back, letting the wanderers move on. They pass through the lane toward another cluster of homes, their drums thumping in time with the crunch of snow beneath their feet. Bells jingle, voices murmur. It feels festive, almost joyful. Yet an undercurrent hums through the scene, subtle and uncertain. You follow them into the next courtyard. More villagers greet them, offering ale in steaming mugs. The goatmen tilt their heads back to drink, but you notice how one tilts too far. The liquid spills down inside the mask, disappearing into the fur. No complaint, no flinch, as if the mask itself is thirsty. A child reaches out to touch a carved horn. The moment the small fingers graze the wood, the figure jerks back with a swift, unnatural movement, like an animal startled in the underbrush. The child stumbles. A parent pulls them close, murmuring something reassuring. "It's just tradition," they whisper, but their hands tremble. You walk on, letting the drums fade to a distant pulse before drifting toward the village center. Snow gathers in soft mounds, glowing under lantern light. You breathe deeply, letting cold air fill your chest, grounding you. The world here feels suspended, halfway between old ritual and living myth. And then, silence. The drums stop, not gradually, abruptly, as if someone cut the sound with a blade. You stand still, listening. The wind brushes past your ears, carrying a faint rattle of bells. A single crunch of snow follows, slow and heavy, like a large animal shifting its weight. You turn gently, not wanting to disturb whatever moves in the dark. A figure stands at the edge of the square, alone, still. Its mask is painted black, with red lines carved into the grain. The horns curve upward, long and sharp. The fur cloak drapes down to the ground, hiding the feet entirely. You cannot see breath this time. The air around it looks still, too still. Another wanderer appears behind it. Then another, and another. They form a semicircle, their masks catching the faint lantern glow. No drums, no bells, just quiet. You sense it now, the part the villagers never speak loudly. The part they treat with half smiles and changed subjects. Some nights, they say, the Julbuck come in groups of 5 or 6. Other nights, more. Too many to trace. Too many to be only men in costumes. And on some of those nights, a stranger goatman stands among them. A mask no one in the village carved. A costume no one recognizes. One that only appears when winter is deepest. You step closer, drawn by the quiet gravity of the moment. The air thickens. The masked figures tilt their heads in unison, slow as falling frost. The movement is too synchronized to be human, too practiced, too old. And then you hear it, a breath, not from the figures, from behind you, warm, heavy, close. You turn slowly, softly, as if waking inside a dream. Another goat-faced figure stands inches away, its wooden mask carved with intricate spirals. Its eyes, painted in dark ink, seem to glimmer with something living behind them. The breath comes again, warm enough to fog the air between you. The mask leans forward, studying you. A gentle sniff, curious pause, the way an animal might examine something unfamiliar. You do not move, you do not speak, and after a moment, the figure steps back, joining the others with a low, rumbling huff. One by one, the goatmen turn away, their cloaks brushing softly over the snow. They drift down the lane, disappearing into the white, moving with a rhythm older than the villagers' songs. You watch until the last mask fades into darkness, until the bells fall silent, until the air clears of breath and fur and ancient instinct. Then you walk back toward the village, snow crunching beneath your boots. The homes glow warm and steady, unaware that something strayed a little too close tonight, something that wore the mask too well, something whose breath fogged the winter air in a way no wooden face should allow. And as you reach the edge of the square, you notice a single carved mask lying half-buried in the snow, empty, expressionless, waiting. But the footprints around it, those are not empty. They lead into the woods, deep, heavy, 2 sets, never alone. You return now to a colder silence, not the vast Scandinavian lanes or the Italian mountains, but the dense Baltic woods where stories grow as thick as pine roots. Here, the forest edge was a boundary between home and hunger. Pine needles whispered like thin voices calling from the deep frost. Parents warned their children of the winter thing that lured wanderers astray. and some claimed they heard it humming old carols in the dark. You stand at that forest edge now, where the last lantern light from the village flickers weakly across the snow. Behind you lies warmth, wood smoke, soft lamplight, the muffled hum of families settling in for the winter night. Ahead of you lies the tree line, black and waiting, thick with branches sharp as silhouettes. It feels like approaching a mouth, a threshold, a hush that grows heavier the closer you step. The Baltics know winter differently. Here, the cold is not a season. It is a being. It shapes the land, the habits, the rituals, the imagination. Snow falls in soft veils that muffle even the boldest sound. The pines stand close together, thick enough that wind can barely move between them. And the dark here is a presence. Presses, it watches, it remembers. You take one step closer to the trees. The air changes. The silence deepens. The temperature dips. Not by much, only enough for you to feel it in your fingertips. You hear it then. The gentle shiver of pine needles brushing against each other. Not a breeze. Not an animal. Something lighter, quieter, like whispered voices drifting through frozen branches. Baltic parents told stories to keep children close, especially in the old days when winter was unforgiving. Tales of a creature, not quite a spirit, not quite a beast, that lived among the pines during the cold months. A figure that waited for wandering footsteps, that mimicked familiar sounds, that hummed old carols in a voice just soft enough to be mistaken for a distant family member. They called it the child taker, not out of cruelty but caution, a guardian of boundaries, a reminder that a single misstep into the dark could lead to disaster, long before the legend existed. You walk along the forest edge, your boots sinking gently into powdery snow. The moon hides behind clouds, leaving the world lit only by starlight and distant windows. The trees rise like pillars, each one tall enough to swallow sound. You feel the faint prickle of instinct urging you to stay close to the village glow. But you step forward, curious. The pines respond. A low rustle moves through them, not quite natural, not quite wrong, just attentive, like the woods are aware of you, shifting to make room for your presence. You breathe slowly, letting the cold settle in your chest, wrapping your ribs in quiet. You hear it again, that whisper of pine needles. But this time, the sound bends into a shape that resembles a tone. A note, a fragment of melody, too short to identify. Not a full song, just enough to suggest one. A lure. You stop. The sound fades instantly, as if it noticed your pause. You step again. The sound returns, a soft humming. Familiar, old, something like a winter carol, but stretched thin, slowed by distance and age. You tilt your head. It almost sounds like a lullaby, something a mother might hum near a fireplace. Something safe, something gentle. But the forest is not gentle. Not tonight. You move deeper into the trees, only a few steps, enough that the village becomes a soft glow behind you. The hum threads through the trunks, weaving itself around branches, echoing in a way that makes it impossible to tell where it comes from. It's not threatening. If anything, it is inviting. A child would follow it. A frightened child, even more so. That was the danger. You reach a small clearing where the snow lies untouched. Perfect. Smooth. Untrodden by animals or humans. But at the far edge, near the base of a pine, you see something. A depression. A shape. Small. The size of a child's boot. Only one. You kneel gently, brushing your glove across the snow. The outline is crisp, fresh, but there is no second print. No trail leading to or from the spot. Just one lonely footprint, pressed into the clearing like a memory someone attempted to leave behind. You feel the air shift again. A low hum coils through the trees, closer now, almost warm, curls around your ears like breath. The hairs on your neck rise. You don't turn yet. You let the moment grow, slow and careful, like watching frost form on glass. When you do turn, you don't see a creature. You don't see a shadow. You see something stranger, a small wooden toy, half buried in the snow at the edge of the clearing. A carved figure, simple, worn, the kind a child might hold to sleep. You lift it, turning it in your hands. The wood is cold, but not icy, not frozen, as though it was placed there not long ago. The humming stops. The forest exhales. You feel watched, not by a physical shape, but by the space itself. The silence thickens in a circle around you, and then softly, a different sound emerges. A soft, rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming on bark. Then a whisper of snow falling where no snow should fall. Then a faint breath, warm enough to cloud the air but with no visible source. You step back. The sound follows. You step back again toward the forest edge. The hum restarts, not melodic this time, not a lure, a warning, as though something in the trees does not want you to continue further. Not tonight, not alone. You obey. When you return to the village glow, the tension eases. The air warms by a fraction. The pines quiet. The hum fades into nothing more than the wind brushing needles, ordinary and innocent again. You look down. The wooden toy is gone from your hand. You didn't drop it. You didn't place it anywhere. It is simply gone. You breathe slowly, letting your heartbeat settle into the calm rhythm of snow. Village windows flicker warm and steady. Humans safe in their homes, unaware of what whispered just beyond the light. You walk along the path toward the nearest door, and as you reach the steps, you notice something else. Pine needles scattered neatly across the threshold. Not natural, arranged, almost like a message. A soft sound drifts from the forest one last time. A humming note, high and thin. A fragment of a carol sung to no one, but heard by anyone who wanders too close. And as you step back into the village, the pine shadows shift behind you, closing like gentle hands. The forest remembers its own, and it waits. You drift now into a gentler winter. Not gentle in weather, but in memory, in superstition, in the old beliefs that settled like frost across the British Isles. This land has a different kind of darkness, a softer kind, woven from fog and moorland and ancient roads that once carried more hooves than footsteps. The British Isles once feared creatures that roamed on Christmas Eve. Hoofprints appeared overnight, circling cottages with eerie precision. Families left offerings so the phantom riders would pass their homes untouched. But each year, one house awoke to a door left wide open. You feel the air shift as you arrive, damp, heavy, touched by the distant salt of the coast and the sweet iron scent of cold earth. The landscape spreads out in rolling fields, hedgerows trimmed by centuries of hands, and cottages huddled like old friends against the wind. Stone walls lean slightly, softened by moss. Roofs glisten with frost that catches the faint moonlight and scatters it across the snow like powdered stars. You walk down a narrow lane, the kind that presses close on both sides, lined with bare branches that claw gently at the sky. Your breath drifts in front of you, mixing with the low mist that clings to the ground. The night feels watchful, not hostile, not warm, simply aware. A night that remembers old tales, even if the villagers pretend they've forgotten. Somewhere nearby, a horse's hoof clacks softly, but there are no horses. Not tonight. You pause, listening. The sound fades as quickly as it came, swallowed by the thick hush of winter. A thin fog curls between the hedges. Lanterns glow faintly through cottage windows, soft halos of gold against the blue-black dark. Inside, families gather around hearths that crackle with warm logs. Outside, the world holds its breath. Because tonight is not only Christmas Eve. Tonight is the night of the phantom riders. You find the traces they leave before you see anything else. Hoofprints, deep, sharp-edged, arranged in perfect circles around each cottage. Not uneven, not chaotic, not the wandering path of real horses. These prints move with precision, deliberate as ritual, delicate as script. A message written in snow. You crouch to study one print. The snow inside is pressed flat and clean, as though weighed down by something heavy for only a moment. But the edges are untouched. A real horse would disturb the surrounding snow, scatter it, melt it slightly. These do not. These look placed. And yet, the indentation feels real beneath your fingertips. You rise slowly, the cold settling through your gloves. Stories once said that on this night, the wild hunt roamed, or spectral horsemen, or restless souls riding beasts that made no sound except the hollow thud of hooves. The names changed by region, by century, by storyteller. But one idea remained. Beings rode through the sky, and their passage could brush against the living world. To be circled was a warning. To be entered was something else. You walk toward one cottage where a family has left offerings by the door. A bowl of oats, a small loaf, a splash of ale glistening in the moonlight. These are not gifts of celebration. They are payments, fees for protection. A way to say, "We see you. Please pass us by." You hear a faint rustle inside the house. Whispers, quiet and hopeful. Perhaps a mother checking the latch. Perhaps a father stoking the embers one last time. They believe even if they claim not to. The old stories linger in the bones of these villages. You move on. Further down the lane, a second house sits dark and quiet. No lantern glows behind the curtains. No smoke rises from the chimney. The snow is unmarked except for the hoof prints. And these prints do not circle. They lead directly to the door. Stop, turn, then vanish into nothing. You draw closer. The air around this cottage feels colder, denser. Your breath curls faster, anxious. You try the handle, it holds firm. Locked, no sign of disturbance. But the prints remain a strange echo, like a conversation that ended too abruptly. The wind rises, brushing through the hedges with a soft hiss like whispered warnings. You continue walking, guided by the faint moonlight balancing on the snow. The village grows quieter, as if the night has drawn a deeper breath. You hear it again, hoofbeats, distant and hollow, not on the ground. Above, a faint rhythm, the sound of weight pressing down through empty air. You look up. The sky is an endless, low-hanging cloud bank, gray and opaque. Nothing moves across it, no form, no shape, but the sound is clear enough to feel against your chest. A cold tremor ripples through the snow. The wind shifts suddenly, sweeping down the lane, carrying with it the smell of wet earth mixed with something metallic, almost like old iron. The scent of horseshoes that should not exist. You take another step. There, another cottage. Smaller, older. Its walls lean inward as though trying to stay warm. But this one has its door open, just slightly, a thin line of blackness between wood and frame. You approach slowly, snow crunching beneath your boots. Lamps inside flicker faintly, their flame unsteady. As you near the doorstep, you feel a wave of cold roll outward from the opening, colder than the night around it. The air smells lightly of soot, of damp wool, of something disturbed. And when you reach the threshold, you see them. Hoofprints, not circling, not stopping outside. Inside, pressed into the thin scatter of fallen snow that drifted in earlier in the day. Perfect, deep, winter's script written across the floorboards. You listen, nothing moves. The cottage is still. You step back gently, letting the night swallow the doorway again. The wind hums a soft, low sound, brushing past your ears like the quiet murmur of distant rains. Some say the phantom riders were lost souls. Some say they were omens. Some say they sought the lonely, the wandering, the homes where the hearth burned low. And some say they were simply reminders that winter, even wrapped in celebration, still holds a shadow. You step away from the open cottage, letting the dark fold its edges around it. Snow falls again, delicate flakes settling into hoof-shaped hollows. As you walk back toward the heart of the village, the hoofbeats sound once more soft, measured, fading into the clouds like disappearing breath. One final crunch of snow behind you makes you pause. You turn, slowly, carefully. Just beyond the lane, a new trail appears, fresh hoofprints leading into the night, as though something has just set off again, leaving the village for now. But the door behind you remains open, waiting, a reminder that each winter leaves one home unprotected, just so the old stories never quite fade into sleep. You return now to a winter older than borders, older than names, older even than the calendars used to measure its passing. Far in Slavic lore, when the last night of the year spread itself over frozen fields and quiet villages, spirits gathered at crossroads. Icy mist curled like pale fingers across the ground. Villagers left bread, salt, and whispered blessings to keep their ancestors peaceful. Still, the offerings sometimes vanished faster than frost could melt. You stand in that world now, a place between endings and beginnings. The snow is deep and untouched, layered like silk across sleeping farmlands. The moon hangs low and thin, a silver sliver trembling above the treetops. Smoke lifts lazily from wooden chimneys, straight lines rising into stillness. The night here feels paused, as if waiting for something only it understands. You walk along a narrow path lined with bare branches. Frost clings to every twig, every blade of grass, turning each one into a shard of glass. Your boots crunch softly, each step muffled by layers of old snow. There is no wind, no birds, just the hush of a world suspended between years. Ahead of you lies a crossroads, for simple paths meeting in a lonely clearing. A small stone marker stands at its center, half buried by snow, carved with symbols worn almost smooth by centuries of winters. This place feels important, a threshold, a hinge in the world. You step closer. The air changes. A thin mist curls upward from the ground, slow and deliberate, like pale fingers stretching from beneath the earth. It wraps around your boots, cold and drifting. You breathe deeply, letting the chill settle comfortably into your chest. You feel watched not with fear, but with recognition, as if the night knows you are here as a guest, not a trespasser. In Slavic villages, people believed the veil between the living and the dead thinned on this night, not to frighten them, but to bring families together even across the divide. The dead were thought to travel roads, seeking warmth, seeking memory, seeking acknowledgement. So villagers prepared. You see the offerings laid with quiet care. A loaf of dark bread resting on a wooden plank, a small pile of salt gleaming like tiny stars, a cup of kvass warming the air with a faint, earthy sweetness. Beside these, a scattering of grain and a lit candle flickering weakly in the frost. These gifts were not worship. They were reminders. We remember you. We welcome you. We feed you so you do not hunger for us. You imagine the villagers leaving them behind earlier in the night. Boots crunching, breath steaming, children holding lanterns close to stay brave. They would bow their heads, speak soft blessings, then hurry home before the mist thickened. Because no living soul stayed at the crossroads at midnight. Except you. You kneel to examine the bread. Warm still, faintly, as if recently placed. The salt glistens where moonlight catches it. The kvass smells sharp and clean, its surface trembling with the slightest movement of air. You reach out, but stop. Something is approaching. Not footsteps, not voices, pressure, a shift in temperature. The mist rises higher now, coiling into soft columns. You feel it moving past your ankles, circling, curious. The silhouettes of the trees waver as the air thickens. You stand slowly, letting the moment unfold without hurry. A sound emerges from the frost, a faint rustle, like fabric brushing against the ground. Another follows, crisp and dry, like leaves shifting under invisible weight. Then a third, softer still, like someone exhaling after a long journey. They are gathering, not in bodies, not in shapes, but in presence. The ancestors, the wanderers, the lost and the remembered. The crossroads glows faintly as the mist thickens, turning the air opalescent. The candle flickers wildly, flame bending as though bowing to something passing by. You hear a whisper, not a word, not a sentence, a tone, a vibration brushing gently against your ear. Feels like memory, like someone calling from far away. Their voice too soft to understand but too familiar to ignore. The offerings tremble. The bread sinks slightly, as though pressed by unseen fingers. The kvass ripples. The salt shifts into a tiny mound, neat and deliberate. You do not move. You do not breathe too deeply. You watch, because this is not a moment meant for interruption. It is a moment meant for witnessing quiet, sacred, in the hush between 2 years. Another whisper drifts through the air, closer now, softer. It hums in the same rhythm as your heartbeat. You close your eyes briefly, letting the sound wash through you. feels warm, comforting, a presence that does not frighten, only observes. When you open your eyes, one of the offerings has vanished. The loaf of bread, gone completely, no crumbs, no disturbance, no tracks, taken in the way only a spirit might take something, consumed as meaning, not matter. The mist recoils slightly, as if satisfied. It thickens around the crossroads, curling upward and outward like a gathering breath. You feel a shift, a movement, a gentle swirl, as though the invisible visitors are turning, leaving, drifting down the other roads to visit other villages, other homes, other families. But then, something changes. A second offering, the cup of kvass, begins to empty slowly, not spilling, not evaporating, draining as if lifted by invisible lips. The liquid lowers in perfect stillness until the cup sits empty under the candle's glow. The mist sways, like a bow of gratitude, and then the final sign, a faint brush of cold air across your cheek. A touch, a greeting, a thank you. You stand motionless as the mist unravels, thinning into stray tendrils. The candle flame steadies. The salt mound stops shifting. The crossroads grows still again, empty, calm, almost ordinary. But something lingers, a warmth on your cheek, a sense of being seen, a whisper fading just beyond hearing. You step back slowly, letting the silence settle. Snowflakes begin to fall, soft, slow, drifting down like blessings from a sky ready to restart its clock. The crossroads looks untouched again, but the air feels lighter, as if the night has released a long-held breath. You turn toward the village. Lights flicker from cottages. Smoke rises. Doors remain closed. Families sleep peacefully, unaware of how close the spirit world drifted tonight. You take one last look over your shoulder. The mist curls gently at the crossroads, gathering like soft fog, then fades entirely. All that remains is the salt, untouched, and the empty cup, a reminder that the spirits came hungry and left satisfied. And on this night, the hinge between years, silence holds the stories gently, waiting for dawn to begin again. You come now to the last winter, not the coldest, not the oldest, but the quietest. A winter wrapped in lights and laughter, in songs and rituals softened by time. Yet beneath the glittering surface, something older sleeps. As centuries passed, old terrors buried themselves beneath tinsel and lights. The scent of pine and cinnamon hid older, sharper truths. People forgot the bargains their ancestors made to survive the dark. Yet each winter, the silence feels watched, as if the monsters remember. You stand in the middle of a modern street now, a place bright with decorations, washed in warm yellow windows and strings of lights that drape like glowing vines across rooftops. The air smells of cinnamon, burnt sugar, pine needles. Children laugh as they pass you, their boots tapping cheerful rhythms on the frosty pavement. A car hums by, its headlights carving brief tunnels of brightness through the dark. Music spills softly from open doorways, carols polished over centuries until only sweetness remains. It all feels warm, safe, familiar, and yet you feel the winter beneath it, the real winter, the one older than every light strung across these streets. You walk slowly, letting the warm glow fall away behind you. Snow gathers in shallow drifts at the edges of buildings. Frost thickens on benches and railings, glistening like silver dust. Somewhere far away, wind brushes against rooftops, soft, gentle, as though searching. You notice how quiet the world becomes when you slip away from the crowds, how quickly sound falls flat, how easily your footsteps begin to echo. It's the same silence your ancestors felt, the silence that taught them to fear the dark months, to invent stories so the night would have a name. Those stories still linger. They may be softer now, but they exist in the bones of the season. You turn down a narrow lane. The lights thin out, shadows deepen, the scent of cinnamon fades. Instead, you smell cold earth, distant pine, the faint metallic whisper of frost settling along stone. It feels like stepping through two layers of time at once, the modern winter peeling away to reveal the old one beneath. And in that old layer, the monsters sleep. You walk past a row of darkened cottages, older than the houses behind you. Slate roofs, thick stone walls, narrow windows. They watch you with their own kind of patience. You pause at one window, looking at the ice spreading across the glass. Delicate veins, tiny ribs, a pattern that looks almost organic. You tilt your head. Two small ovals appear in the frost. Faint, perfectly shaped. Watching, you blink. They're gone. Just frost again. You move on. The stories you've traveled through, the horned watcher, the barn dweller, the goatmen, the crone, the phantom riders, the spirits at crossroads, they do not vanish simply because their names faded from common speech. They linger, soft as echoes, woven into the season itself. You feel them now, a heaviness behind your shoulder, a brush of cold across your hand, a distant sound, a jingle, a step, a breath, carried on the wind. You pause at the edge of a frozen park. Snow blankets the ground in an unbroken sheet, white and untouched. But when you look closely, the surface is disturbed, only slightly, small dips, larger impressions, a faint pattern of something stepping, then circling, then slipping away. Modern eyes won't notice, modern ears won't hear, but you do. You feel how the old creatures curled themselves into the winter rituals, into pine branches, into bells, into parades, into Santa's shadow. Tamed, softened, given new forms so people could forget the teeth behind the stories. But monsters don't vanish. They hibernate. You walk into the park, your breath rising in pale curls. The snow crunches beneath your boots, quiet, hesitant. The trees here stand tall and bare, branches lifting like black ribs into the sky. You feel the hush deepen around you, settling like a blanket of cold wool. Somewhere in the dark, you hear it, a low hum, too soft to be a voice, too steady to be wind. You stop, the hum fades. You kneel, brushing your glove lightly across the snow. Beneath the thin top layer, you find prints, wide enough to feel familiar, deep enough to feel impossible. A set of smaller tracks beside them, mismatched, uneven. Another that curves strangely, as though the creature walked with a limp. You follow them deeper into the trees. Your steps slow. The air thickens. The modern world feels far behind you. A dream fading as you step further into the old night. Here, the monsters slept. Here, they survived. Here, the season still belongs to them. The prints lead to a hollow at the base of an old tree, its trunk split wide like a doorway. The inside is dark, darker than it should be. A cold breath drifts from within. You feel it brush your face with the soft, deliberate curiosity of something waking. You lean close. For a moment, you think you hear whispers, stories, names, the rustle of fur, the click of hooves, the faint hum of a carol sung long before humans learned the tune. You step back slowly, your breath trembling into the night, not with fear, with recognition. The monsters are not gone. They simply learned to sleep beneath layers of ritual and memory and light. But winter still calls to them. Winter still belongs to them. You look around. Snow drifts in soft spirals, settling on your coat, your hair, your eyelashes. The world feels peaceful again, calm, still, serene. Yet the silence remains thick, weighted by unseen eyes. You walk back toward the bright village lights. The street lamps appear like stars returning after a long absence. Laughter drifts faintly from warm homes. Doors close softly. Curtains glow gold. But you feel it now. The watching. A gentle, ancient awareness pressing against your back. The creatures are still here, woven into the season, listening, stirring, remembering. And as you step into the warmth of town, snow crunching softly beneath your feet, a single, slow breath rises behind you and fades into the dark. The winter monsters sleep, but not deeply, not ever.